Alright, so it's the next day, and while this does its marination, I want to test the rest of the fuel system, which is why I've rigged up this here fuel cell, which is just a piece of 5/8 fuel line, 5/16 fuel line, onto a 1/4-inch fuel filter, because that definitely won't lead to any fuel supply issues. That's just hose clamped on, just slides into this 1-gallon gas can, and you just put a little regular lock ring on it, and bam, you got a temp fuel cell. So I'm going to throw a 1/2 gallon of gas in that. We're going to hook it up, and we're going to see if it runs any better off of this. This should hopefully run better than whatever the hell was going on over there. And if it does, then we know that it's not an issue with the carburetor and it's just with the fuel tank. All right, I'm also going to put just a slug of gum out in there just for good luck. So if there is anything funny in the carburetor, that should help clean out any varnish. Alright, so after a quick diversion to replace that valve stem, I've started day drinking, but also I've got the new fuel cell plumbed in here, so even have the cap open, so I don't accidentally pull a vacuum, because I may or may not have done that in the past, not on this machine, but other times. I'm going to fire the sucker up, and we'll see if it runs just fine. Alright. Already a lot better. So I think that might have done something. Well, I think it's time to take it for a test rip. Definitely not very fast. Seems to be capped at about 10 or 12 miles per hour. Alrighty, well, we just did a whole lap of the yard with no issues at all, so I'm going to comfortably say that the gas tank was the entire sum of the fuel system issues. I gotta do something about all the brakes in this thing as well. I really can't send a machine back that has an emergency brake that doesn't lock and a regular brake that doesn't exist. So I guess for this afternoon, what I'm going to try and do is get this cowl off and see if we can remove the rat's nest that's inside of the cooling fan. All right, real quick, I also fixed the winch. The switch is kind of fucked up, but get it to go, and I have to turn it all funny like, but I can get it to, well, you're gonna have to believe me. It goes both ways. It's just a little screwy. Now I just have to figure out the rest of it. And yeah, I'm just gonna systematically start removing screws, and have to remove some big boy nuts down in here to get the roll bar off. It shouldn't be too much. I'm hoping just all these little trim screws, those 2 big bolts, and it should theoretically just come right off, so we'll see. Alrighty, so I managed to figure out where all the mystery bolts went, and as well as managed to break off another couple more bolts. Additionally, I have no idea where those mud flaps were originally attached. They were just kind of in there, and I took it off, and they're there, and I can't find a place where they go. And they don't go on the rear, and they don't go on the front. So I have no earthly idea where they used to be doing anything, but we'll figure that out at a later date. Now, if my calculations are correct, I should just be able to pull this sucker off, and it also looks like the cowl maybe theoretically could just come off. Nope, I still got 2 more bolts up here, and maybe the glove box, and then I think it might be coming out. Alrighty, well, there the cowl is gone. Also, there is the brake fluid reservoir, because I just noticed this thing has liquid brakes. The fact that there's no brake fluid in here probably has something to do with the fact that there's no brakes. So don't know if it's got a leak or if everything's just shot, but can't hurt dump a little .3 in there and just see what the hell happens. But we are now one step closer to removing the rat nestage from inside of here and figuring out what's wrong with the wiring. There's also a lot of mud daubers in here, so we'll expel them. But anyway, in order to get the cowl off, take the two big 1 1/4 inch bolts that were holding the roll cage on. You might have to do something more fancy in order to get yours off, since that one was already cut. I don't know if the thing's hinged or split elsewhere in the factory model. And then from that, it's the 2 bolts holding on this front piece up here for the radiator shield. And then it is just the bolts all the way around here going through the green cowl. 3, 4, 5, and 6 for the radiator, and that's it. And then it's got these sort of hog ring things down here that go through these little jobbers, and then underneath that hog ring goes these little clips, and that's really all there is holding this thing on. So anywho, I think I'm going to dump some brake fluid in there real quick just to see what the hell happens there, see if it builds pressure, and allow that some time to air bleed down into the system if there is in fact a leak. And then our primary goal is going to be figuring out what is wrong with the fan. I also just noticed that this wire for the winch is totally ate through, so I'm going to wrap that real quick for that shorts off on something. And yeah, just generally remove a lot of this measage. Well, we threw a slug of .3 in there, and this stuff's probably older than I am, but as they say, the wrong oil is better than no oil. So we'll just let that percolate, see what happens, run the brakes a couple times, and maybe, just maybe, it'll get some brakes back. But anyway, I don't want to dig into this. It looks like I also have to pull additional plastic bits off. Fun. Alright, so I went down in here and I cleaned out a whole rat's nest worth of leaves, and there appears to be nothing left down in there. And I can stick my finger on the fan down in here. Come on, you little shit. And I said I can stick my finger on the fan in here and spin it. It spins just fine. So there's nothing blocking the fan. And this gray wire right there, that's the wiring for the fan, best I can figure. So there's no damage to it. So it looks like the fan is just fine. So I've gotten all that out of there. So the fan should be able to spin freely now. And I think I'm going to put the cowl back on because there's nothing else I need to monkey with in here. Well, other than the brakes. I think I'll bleed the brakes real quick, just bleed them out the master and just see what happens there. Alrighty, I bled the master cylinder, got all 3 fittings off and got fluid out of all of them, some delicious nasty rust colored goop, but it's bled out. So now we just have to figure out if we can actually bleed the calipers themselves, and if we can do that, we might actually be able to get brakes back in this pig. Alright, so I bled the front brakes as best as I could, and I'm over here working on the emergency brake. Pretty much just tightened it down about, I don't know, about 8 turns here on the cable, so now it bottoms out about halfway down. And I've mostly fixed the locking mechanism that was messed up before. It was just a little sticky. Just gave it a little bit of PB blaster, and it seems to be good now. So we at the very least have a functional emergency brake. So we're going to put this cover back on it, lock this all back down, and take it for a test drive, and see whether or not we have something akin to brakes. All right, so everything's back together. All we have to do now is drink some beer, go run her up to the head of the road and back, throw another gallon of gas in the back, just to be safe, and see whether or not we've got some brakes on this thing. It'd be really nice if we did. And, oh, it actually feels like we have brakes, so that could be interesting. Alright, I don't want to spill my beer now. We have brakes. Hey-oh, well that was fucking easy. Nice. So, yeah, cool beans. Let's see, can I shift this with just my knee? Oh, I can, yes. It is beer drinkable. Not really. I need a cup holder for this thing. Man, it's hard to film and drink beer at the same time while operating a motor vehicle. At least I'm on private property. Anyway, I'm not gonna make y'all suffer through the rest of this filmography. So I'm just kind of gonna run around until something goes south. Well, I drove all the way up to the head of the road and got the paper and drank most of my beer. Temp light's not on, so I guess let's do some work. Let's haul this trailer up to the garage because I gotta take that John Deere mower back. I probably should use 2 hands for this. All right, well, that's hooked up. That might be a 1 7/8 ball, but we're not gonna let the government stop us. Just put the old beer in the beer pocket and see if she'll tow this thing. She don't like it all that much, but it's a going. We'll just haul this thing around for a little bit and see if she overheats. Well, I don't see a temp light on. Doesn't sound like it's running too bad, except for the fact that it's running out of gas. So I don't know whether or not the overheating problem was an issue or not, or if it just wasn't getting enough airflow or something. But before we run out of gas, I'm gonna park her back on the slab, and she's pretty much good to go. I just have to get that fuel tank resealed and we'll be laughing. All right, so it's been a couple days and the vinegar seems to be doing something. I think I probably don't have enough vinegar, so I think I'm gonna stop at the store and just pick up another gallon to dump in here. But for the time being, I've got to go to a 2-day conference in Columbia. Drive there, drive back, drive there, drive back, then drive downtown the next day and then drive back. So in order to get the most out of that commute, driving bumpy back roads at 60-something miles an hour, I'm going to throw this thing in the trunk of the Mercedes and just let it percolate and swish and slosh and rattle around in the back of there and really get as much, you know, ultrasonic cleaner slash sloshing action to make as big of a dent in this rust bucket as we possibly can. Alrighty, so there that thing is, and we'll just hope that that deck screw I have in there for strapping down a diesel can doesn't poke a hole in the side of the thing. And if it does, it won't matter because we're going to seal it anyway. And we're just going to send this thing off to the races. Alright, so we've put about 500 miles worth of South Carolina back roads and Columbia up and downhill stop and go traffic through this thing. And I really need to put another gallon of vinegar in it, but I just can't be bothered to go to the grocery store at 9-something at night because I got to drive 20 minutes to town the other direction, and I'm driving through the little bumfuck nowhere. So there's not any grocery stores I go by. But anyway, it's still full of vinegar. The hole hasn't opened up, and we're gonna throw her in the Jeep and then drive through Charleston traffic tomorrow. Sweet dreams, little gas tank. Okay, so it's been a week, and this sucker's been in the back of my car for what, 600, 700 miles now. And the bottom of the inside of this thing looks great. You know, the top, not so good still, but I don't even know if you can, well, I don't even think I can show it, but the pretty much from where the vinegar has been sitting about here down, pristine, looks great, except for, you know, the 1/4 inch of sludge. So I think I need to just get more vinegar, and I just haven't had a damn chance to get to the store. So I'm gonna buy 5 gallons of vinegar and just fill this thing until it is pouring out, and just whole way, just fill this son of a bitch up with vinegar and just let it sit and percolate. And it should just need another week or two, and then it should be golden. So I think that is a new plan, is hurry up and wait and go buy some vinegar. Additionally, I have my Pour 15 tank sealant in. So when I decide to do that, I will be ready to go. It's probably going to be a month, but we shall see. And I want to test these headlights and see if the headlights work. I have a feeling the fuse is probably blown or something, but also I think it's like 50-50 between the fuse is blown and both headlights are just absolute shit. So we'll see. All right, so fuse is not blown and we are getting power to the actual headlight. So I think at least this bulb is just shit the bed. So let me check the other one, but it's probably the case on both sides that they're just kaput. Yeah, we got 12 volts on both sides, so the bulbs are just shot. Well, that's easy, I hope. Knock on rusty steel. All right, so I have a distinct feeling that the headlight is shot. Now, I hope this is just like a fairly basic like bulb that I can just like pull out of this. Like I hope this is like a fog light, like a standard like 70s, 80s round fog light or something. I'm trying to figure out how the fuck to get this thing apart. All right, so it's just kind of press fit in there. So I just have to manhandle it out, and it is a GE 4411, as you can see right there. It's tractor headlight. Looked it up. They're about 10 to 15 bucks for a replacement. So I'll call the owner and see if he wants me to do these, and if not, we'll just stuff it right back in there and pretend we didn't see anything. All right, it's like fucking 11:30 at night, and I'm finally back from the office, and I bought more vinegar finally after 3 days of not being able to get to the damn store. And we're just gonna put 2 more gallons of vinegar in this thing and let it jostle around in the back of the Jeep, because I don't want to put any more than that in here, because I feel like if I do that, it's gonna spill shit out of every orifice. I probably need to get a hose clamp for that, but we'll just ignore it and just let it spill vinegar everywhere. Additionally, it does appear to be leaking vinegar scunge out of the back of this thing now, so there are in fact real holes on the back of this. Well, if this don't give that fuel tank a good shaking, I don't know what will, but it's gonna get a whole lot of this today, and I just hope I don't get a whole lot of vinegar in the trunk of the Jeep, because it smells bad enough already. Ooh-wee. Oh God, that ain't a good noise. Well, I know where I'm going. I don't know what's so forbidden about this whole place. It's like a pretty normal forest to me. Except for all those dead bodies, that was weird. There's probably at least 3 or 4 more dead bodies than normal. And I feel like I'm at some sort of vehicle proving grounds with this washboard road out here. Oh good Lord. I am definitely experiencing every eccentricity and loose bushing in this whole Jeep suspension though, so that's valuable, if nothing else. Well, it appears the vinegar may be working, so I think it's oh God, that's a lot of vinegar. I think it may be time for me to get this thing the hell out of my car. Well, that's a pretty good hole. I mean, that's like a 1/16 of an inch. So there's a lot more pinholes than anticipated. They're really starting to show through now that we're dissolving all this rust. So I think this thing is going to live here, where it can be self-contained and not leak more vinegar into the back of my car. Oh man, my eyes hurt and I'm coughing now, just driving back from the damn office. So I think that thing leaked out, shit, probably a quart of vinegar, maybe a little bit less, into the back of the car. So I'm gonna go figure out how to neutralize that. I'm hoping just dumping a quart of 8.5 pH well water in there will do most of it, and then it'll just dissolve. I mean, vinegar is volatile, so as long as I just leave the windows cracked, drive around with the windows down for a week or so, it should hopefully clear out to some degree. So we'll see about that. Well, it's the next morning, and we only have a minor amount of scunge leakage, so that's a good sign for it being upside down and all. All right, so it's been about 2 weeks now, and I just pulled the fuel tank cap off and cleaned that off, and it looks plenty good and de-rusted, at least for my purposes. So that's very promising. We're gonna dump this thing out, see how it looks. If it looks good, we're gonna neutralize it with some baking soda, and as well as the well water we're gonna wash it out with. Now I just have to dump this thing one-handed on camera without getting it everywhere. Ooh, that's the good stuff. I think we have dissolved a lot of rust. Yeah, it's pretty corrody. Let's hope this thing looks a whole hell of a lot better once I flush some water through it. Well, the bolts look fairly clean, but the inside looks pretty good. It'll be good enough to seal, but thought it would have been a little bit cleaner. We might rinse this out and just throw another gallon of vinegar in there and let it go for a little bit longer. I think that current batch of vinegar is vinegared out. But anyway, I gotta get all the bolts out of there, and they don't want to come out of there because they're all glued together. So hopefully we should just be able to shake them out. But yeah, let's get a much better status report. When you wash this stuff off, there's like a film of like rust gunk on everything. So this looked horrible, and then I sprayed it with water, and it looked perfect. So the inside of this thing might be pristine. We'll see. Well, we're making some progress, but I think it needs more time in the oven. All right, so she's still got a couple of rust chunks in there, mostly on the top. Additionally, I went in over here and just wire brushed some stuff, and there's a lot more holes than we thought. So I don't really know what to do about that with the sealer. I don't know if the sealer will seal something that big, so I'm probably just going to do what I did with this one. And for these, just put a layer of Gorilla Tape over the top, or probably painter's tape and not Gorilla Tape. I should probably get this Gorilla Tape off before it does something funny. But we'll put painter's tape over the top of that when we do the sealing, and then once that's sealed, I'm going to spray everything down with black rust reformer, just, you know, to prevent external corrosion, and just to gussy it up a little bit, make it look like someone actually cared, even though I don't. So anyway, we're going to leave that to sit and do its thing for a little bit. And in the meantime, we're going to work on electrical gremlins. So, I was talking to the owner the other day, and he reminded me I need to verify that the radiator fan works. It's on my list, but I'd forgotten about it. And looking at this guy right here, we have our fuse locations. So this right here is the fuse for the radiator fan. So I need to pop that open and see if it's blown. If it's blown, great. I just have to replace it, and hopefully I have the right fuse. And the fan should be good to go. And in order to test that the fan works, I think all I have to do is just take that yellow wire right there and just ground that spade connector to the engine with the key on, and that should turn the radiator fan on, and that'll let me know whether or not that's good. But when I was over here looking at the fuses, I noticed that, which appears to be a lot of meltiness, and I don't want to have to open up a main wiring harness to fix that degree of melt and or get electrocuted in the process. So I'm going to try not to do that. I'm hoping it's just a blown fuse, or it's not bad at all. Survey says fuse is still good. So it's mildly disconcerting. So let us ground out the radiator fan instead, see if it turns on. Otherwise, motor might be burned out, or that melty wire has something to do with it. All right, so I have the key on. I've got an alligator clamp hooked up here to the spade connector. And so I assume this is a, normally closed switch that opens when coolant temperature gets up to a certain degree, which then completes this circuit to ground through the engine, which then turns the radiator fan on. So if I take this red cable and grab something that's grounded, it should turn the radiator fan on. I'm not hearing radiator fan. Or let me get another set of alligator clips and run this directly to battery ground, or I might actually be able to reach it. All right, so we appear to be 1 inch short. Story of my life. So let's go find another piece of wire. All right, so using this random piece of wire, you can see nothing's happening. So either the radiator fan is burnt out, or we're not getting power to it through the switch. Yeah, that's not good. Maybe it has to be running for this to be on. Maybe there's some kind of other interlock. So we'll crank the thing and see if something happens. All reliable. And let me not burn this wire up that's sitting on the exhaust. I'm not seeing anything. All right, so with the key off, that grounded to the throttle bracket mounted to the head, which may or may not be a good ground. I'm not seeing anything. Turn the key on. I am seeing 12 volts. So, okay, so the switch is getting power, so me shorting the switch should have turned the fan on, but it's not, which to me says that the fan is probably not seeing power or the motor's burn up. So I think we need to splice a line in to either side of the fan. Well, a ground and a hot wire to the fan and see what the hell happens. All right, so the switch is shorted again and this light works. So that's good to know. But what I thought was the fan I have hooked up to the voltmeter, and I'm not seeing any power unless this is the fan. I'll have to test that one next, but I'm not taking the cowl off. All right, so I have the other one hooked up, and after a little bit of troubleshooting, it looks like this barrel connector here is messed up because it reads 0 volts, but then if I just grab it and give it a squeeze, twist it a bit, come on. Actually, if I press my finger right here, it reads 11.2. Why? I don't know. Maybe I'm grounded? Yeah, but touching my finger to it reads 12 volts. And I am not touching the metal at all. Just touching this. Finger off, finger on, finger off, finger on. Again, I'm not grounded. I mean, I'm leaning on a piece of plastic with my knee on concrete. What happens if I stand up and don't touch anything? Just finger touch. Finger touch and I get voltage. That's fucking weird. Let's see if this is in fact the fan circuit. No, it's not the fan circuit. So, don't know what that is or why it's doing that, but it's not the fan. So I can't get any power out of the other side. So I'm feeling something is wrong with the fan wire between the fan and there. All right, so with the switch shorted and testing directly at the fan fuse, key on, light on, we see nothing. All right, so even probing directly on the fuse, so with switch on, temp switch shorted, touching directly on the fuse, we still get nothing. And additionally, touching this to ground, we do get 12 volts. Somehow, way, shape, and form, the fan is no longer grounding itself. Or at the very least, you know, the fans burn up, and so the fan is, you know, the short itself, and so that's why we're not seeing power flowing through this. But there is power to this fuse right here at the very least. I have confirmed that. But I'm not seeing power up here, but then again, I didn't touch either of those to ground. So let me unplug those again and see if I can ground either of them out. And if we can, then we know we at least have power up to there. And if I can confirm that, then I think I'll know whether or not the switches or the fan itself has failed. All right, lights on, switch is on, so there should be power going to the fan. We have this hooked up to what I believe is the ground for the fan. If I touch this to the plate, we have continuity. So we do in fact have a ground from the fan back to the battery. All right, so as you can see, 0 volts with key on and temp light engaged, you know, with ground directly to that. So go over to continuity. You can see still have ground, so ground is still good, but we are not getting power here to the harness for the fan. So that's not bueno. That most likely means that something is wrong with the wiring harness underneath. And it appears to be moving through a central channel in the frame, which is fun. All right, so the ground connector is plugged back in, and we are connected to the positive inbound terminal for the fan. And so touching that to ground, we get the angry beep. So the fan is not a dead short. So it is a break in the wire somewhere between the fuse and here. It does not appear to me that this goes to anything up underneath the dash. No, it just jumps out of this harness somewhere between, just jumps out of the harness right there behind the accelerator. So somewhere between the fuse and right there, we have a break in the line, to the best of my knowledge. All right, fuse is out, and if we tap both sides, we have continuity. So fuse is still fine. All right, so now that we're over here, I have this hooked directly up to ground, and we just have to touch one side of this. It shows no voltage. That side shows full voltage, so that is the inbound sign, that is the outbound sign. So I just have to clip a wire onto this and then hook that up to that barrel connector, and then turn this switch on and just see if the fan comes on, or if everything catches fire and explodes. All right, so another quick test revealed that key off, this guy ungrounded, we still have 12 volts here to the fuse. So that's not good. That means that that wire is basically coming right out of the battery and then doing whatever it's doing, and then this is like, I don't even know what the signal wire is doing. I don't know what is interfering with the signal wire then. So yeah, wherever the fan relay is, I have no idea. I forgot about the whole fact that there's a relay involved in this shenanigans. Alright, so here's my ghetto ass test jig, which is probably going to blow a fuse and melt some wires. So I probably shouldn't look at that glass fuse too hard. We'll stand over here away from it. But when I hook that barrel connector up to this alligator clip, that'll run power directly from the fuse through this momentary switch and then down into the fan. So it's not hooked up right now, but as you can see, we have 12 volts. So this is just hooked up directly to the battery to show me that I do in fact have power. So hook that up and we'll see if the fan turns on or if that fuse explodes. Hey, fan turns on. So good, fan works. I don't have to open the cowl again, but I do have to run a wire to wherever the hell the relay is. Now I just have to find the relay. All right, looking up under the cowl, I can't find anything that looks like a relay. The only thing I see that looks like a relay is that and that. Now, this does not appear to be the relay because it's only got red and white wires coming out of that. So, not certain what it is, but some kind of green wire or something coming out of it. Don't know what it does. But I don't think it's our guy. But I did notice over here on the hydraulic pump, and I know this relay has to work because the hydraulic pump works. Otherwise, how to get that up? It's got this lower section down in here doing stuff, but it's also got this upper section that has a blue and green wire, which goes down, out, down, and into here. And I'm wondering if that might be our relay, but I should probably check to see the color of these wires right here that run up to this. Appear to be a yellow, blue, and red wire. So that's the switch wire then. So this wire right here is the signal wire, and then that's the power wire for that. So, I guess the easy way is I can unplug this and see whether or not the hydraulic pump works. Doesn't. So that was the signal wire for that. So that's not that. If I were a fan relay, then where the fuck would I be? Man, I don't know why I spend all this time troubleshooting out loud, because I just edit all of this out, except for this part, feature me, leave this in, and this part right here, and that one too. All right, so I am not hearing a relay anywhere, and you can't just be running 8 amps through a wire like that, through the block and everything. So wherever the relay is, it's failed. All right, so after some Googling and some angle grinding, we have found the problem. Right there, that blue guy is the actual fan switch. It is bolted directly to the radiator up here at the front. So back there, that is just a sensor that just turns that light on. That's all that does. Because best as I can tell, there's just 2 wires going into that. It's just power comes in, goes to that, and then goes over to the fan. So if that's the case, then I need a new one of those switches, and I gotta get this stupid plate out of here, but I have to get this plate out of here first. All right, so by some unholy miracle, I got this side panel out of there. It was very much an effort. I don't know how I'm gonna get it back in, but there's the switch. And now that I have this whole panel out of here, I'm now realizing the switch is probably fine. This switch is only going to turn on if there's hot water at the radiator. So if the thermostat fails, hot water won't get to the radiator, and if hot water doesn't get to the radiator, the fan will never turn on because the radiator's not hot, because the fan only turns on when the radiator's hot, because there's no point in blowing air through the radiator if the radiator's not hot. So it could be that the thermostat failed, and so we're not getting coolant circulation up to the radiator, and I'm just now realizing that. Because I was under the assumption that, it's like a normal system where, you have a switch up there at the front that then, sends a signal up to a relay that then sends a signal to the fan. But no, you have a switch up there at the front that sends a signal to that light, and then you have a switch on the radiator that turns the fan on. So these 2 switches are operating independently on different legs of the cooling system. And the radiator's only seeing coolant if the thermostat is open. So I think I need to inspect the thermostat before I touch anything in there, because, well, I can pull all that apart and test it and do all this shit, but if hot water is not getting to the radiator, that switch will never get hot enough to engage. So anyway, I'm in there, so it'll probably end up being the switch because I have all this part anyway. But we're gonna need to look at the thermostat now, but it's getting dark and it's about to rain and I have a really bad fucking headache, so I'm not doing that today. But what I am gonna try and do today is the headlights, because I have new headlights. So might as well pop those in, and since it's dark, I'll be able to see if they work. Well, I didn't get the cooling system fixed, but we have headlights, so that's some small consolation. I don't know why I'm trying to align these. It's a fucking gator. But anyway, it's dark out, so might as well fire this thing up. And oh, even these have lights. Look at that. That's spiffy. So might as well fire this thing up and drive around the yard. Man, she is just reliable. You can't beat these Kawasaki's. That's a pretty good alignment. I mean, for as fast as this thing goes, I don't think I need that any higher than it already is. I think we're starting to make progress. I just hope this fuel tank doesn't shit the bed any worse than it already has. What in God's green earth is going on over here? Some sort of bat fucking going on here? Come on, bud. Yep, that's some bat copulation right there. And does not sound consensual. Whoosh. Well, that was exciting. Well, I think we might have a problem. At least I know it's dissolving all the rust, but it it fucking dissolved the gas cap. What am I supposed to do now? All right, well, I managed to fish that thing out of there. It just looks like whatever piece of pot metal was holding it to the actual cap disintegrated. So we still have the rest of that. I don't know if I can repair that at all. Maybe. I mean, this is kind of just crimped on there. I might be able to bust that thing. It feels like plastic. So whatever the hell was connecting that may have not been metal. It could have been zinc or something. I don't know. It's just whatever this plate was right here disintegrated. So great. Have I mentioned it's fucking 11:15 at night and I just got home from work and this is what I walk into, coming in here to grab something out of the beer fridge? What could I have wanted to grab out of the beer fridge? No one will ever know. But oh shit, this thing is turning into a whole fiasco. I guess I gotta buy a fucking gas cap now. All right, so I'm out here in this abandoned shed because, well, we got a house at work and I'm gonna see if I can take this probate iMac home and see if I can do something with it. But I needed to run to the store to buy some acetone or some mineral spirits or something to be able to clean out the fuel tank. And voila, the universe provides. Got just a little bit of denatured alcohol, full thing of denatured alcohol there, a little bit of acetone, and a little bit of gum spirits. So we'll have everything we need to clean that sucker out. And I won't have to spend any more money. And a vintage can of seafoam. I'm sure that's not pure rust. Just look at them damn holes. Well, anyway, we have drained the vinegar, washed this thing out thoroughly. I think the vinegar is mostly neutralized, and I thankfully found this jug of evaporust that I had lying around, which has a hole in it somewhere. So it's fuller than I thought it was. So I thought I'd lost that, so that's fantastic. I'm going to pour that in here after I tape up as many of these holes on the bottom as I can, and just let that do its magic all throughout it. I don't know how much I'm going to need to add to it. I'm probably just going to throw the entire jug in there, but that is going to convert the inside of this tank into black oxide, which will be a good surface for the epoxy to then adhere to. So we're going to coat this as well as we can on the inside. I don't know what I'm gonna have to do about this sucker up here. I'll just have to tape over the thing, or I guess rubber band a bag to the top of it or something, Ziploc bag. And we'll get the entire inside of this thing coated and converted, and then once that's done, and then I wash that out, degrease the entire thing, we should be ready to seal this tomorrow evening, and then I've got to let it sit for minimum 4 days before I can use it. So it'll be next weekend before I can huck fuel in it. Oh man, this is a process. If I wasn't a cheapskate myself, I would have just told the owner to buy a tank, because this is the amount of time I'm putting into this thing would have been the equivalent if I was charging the guy at an hourly rate to just buy a tank. So unless you're really trying to do something on the fix, this is going to take you $100 in material, and probably, well, if you're like me, where, you know, an hour's worth $30, it should take you $400, $500 worth of time on top of it. So just buy another tank, or hell, I wish that thing was deeper. I could just shove a boat tank in there, but such is life. I'm gonna do this on the cheap as a favor. Alrighty, Vapor Rust is in there. Got a Ziploc bag taped over the top of that, and I'm just gonna let it work its magic for probably an hour. Thing says to go up to 30 minutes, but this is untreated steel and it's flash rusting right now. So I just need this to coat the entire inside of this thing and turn it into black oxide. And that'll give us a nice clean surface to prep to. I don't know whether this stuff is corrosive or not. I have a feeling it's probably a little bit corrosive, but it doesn't say to neutralize it. So I think it's just a straight chemical reaction. I think it's just like an electrolysis kind of thing. So I'm liable to just let this thing go for probably an hour, you know, just sit back and have a beer or two, and just swish her around and let it coat as much stuff as I can. So long as it coats the bottom, we'll be in good. It does not appear we have any holes anywhere other than the bottom plate. So really, I just need this epoxy to adhere to the bottom. If it adheres anywhere at all, bottom is the only place I need it to. All right, well, while that thing percolates a little bit longer, I think it's been about close to an hour now, and I don't think it's quite done yet. I'm gonna let it go as long as I can. I'm gonna take this thing out for a spin and see whether or not I can get it to overheat, or at least hear the fan run. Additionally, I figured out something for a cup holder, so that works. I mean, it's not great, but at least it works for me starting the damn thing. And this thing, as soon as this thing gets a little bit of heat in it, it is hella reliable. It's just like that 2012 Mule I used to have at work. All right, so I drove this thing up to my cousin's house and back, so that's a round trip of about 4 miles, a little bit less. What do we got in the tank? And well, she's only used maybe 1/4 of a gallon, so that's maybe 1/3 of a gallon. That's much better fuel economy. It seems like it's getting about somewhere between 10 and 20 miles per gallon. Additionally, once this thing warms up, it's a completely different beast. Shit, this thing was doing about 25 on the way back. So that's interesting, because cold, this thing only does like maybe 12 miles an hour, but it's doing about double that now that it's hot. And you can hear it in the tempo. That idle is so much higher. But the real reason I was doing this is because I want to see if there's coolant flowing to the actual radiator up here. And so I feel like I should be able to feel that on this plate. Not really. Oh yeah, it's definitely warm in there. So it's not the thermostat. So if the fan isn't turning on, then it's simply the fan switch at this point. Because yeah, it's maybe about 75 out, and I was just driving this thing all around about 25 miles an hour, and feels about 85 inside of there. So there's definitely fluid going through the radiator. So it's not that. It probably is just the fan switch then. So I need to buy a gas cap, so I might as well buy a fan switch then and just put that sucker in. But if she only burned 1/3 of a gallon of gas going 4 miles, then I think I'm good enough to drive this thing around for a little bit longer. I want to drive it until I see the little red light turn on here on the dash, or I hear that fan kick on, because then I can prove that either 1, it's overheating, the fan's not turning on, or 2, it's just cooling perfectly fine with airflow. So anyway, I'm gonna swish that thing a little bit more. It's gone for about an hour and 15 minutes now. Grabbing our beer and go run this thing up and down the road again. All right, I want to show you that I'm not crazy here. This thing is a completely different animal when it's hot. Like, good Lord, holy shit. Like this, the top speed of this thing is bare minimum double, if not triple, what it is when it's cold. Holy fuck. Let's see how the brakes work. The brakes work great. God, I need to fix my fucking driveway. Alright, so I went up to my other cousin, and it looks like we burned about the same amount, maybe a little bit more. So she seems to be getting about 12 miles per gallon, would be the guess I would hazard, which ain't too bad. That's much better than the 4 miles per gallon I thought it was, so I'll take that. But it has not overheated yet. It does smell a little funny, but I'm blowing the cobwebs out. I was talking to the owner the other day, and it sounds like he hadn't had it for very long, so he must have just picked it up very recently. So I think it's been sitting for a hot minute. So anyway, everything needs a little bit of the old Italian tune-up every now and again. So I'm quarter Italian, so as long as I bag on it for 4 times as long as I should, then that's a whole Italian tune-up. So we'll take that. Alright, so my plan for the time being is I'm just going to let this sucker sit here and idle and just build as much heat as it possibly can up into the engine and see whether or not we get a temp light come on. It seems to me fairly obvious that the fan is not working, but I would at least like to see the temp light to confirm that it's to a point that the fan should be working. So I'm just going to let it sit here and idle while this thing does its magic and while I drink beer and figure out something else to do for the next 20-30 minutes. Well, I literally ended the last clip and there's a temp light. So yeah, fan is not working. So it's the fan switch. We're gonna let that sit there and just marinate in its overheating. So we need a fan switch and I need a gas cap. So I'll get those ordered up tonight and we'll get those in about a week, and that'll be just about the time that this sealer should be done. And so that should be the perfect time to send this thing back to the owner. All right, good deal. Fantastic. All right, so I put a little bit of evaporust on top just to see what it would do, and it didn't do too much. It did convert a fair bit in there. It seems like it takes a while to get through the actual metal itself. I looked down into the mouth of this thing. I don't know how well, that's not showing up at all, but it isn't really black in there. So I just checked online, and it says you can leave this stuff as long as you like. It's not going to corrode the metal like the vinegar does. So I think I'm just going to let this thing sit overnight, and then we'll wash it out tomorrow, dry it, and then put sealer in it later in the evening. So yeah, that gives me an excuse to go inside and drink more beer and eat some food. So we're going to do that. All right, so now that we know that the fan switch is not working and that the fan does work, and I know my next steps, which is getting that sealed and getting that switch bought and getting everything else in line and getting this thing out the door, I think it's time to cut this video here, because I feel like I'm probably going to run into another couple 100 hours worth of bullshit at some point in this endeavor going forward. But anyway, we'll cut it here. So if you like this series, consider giving the video a like, comment down there. If you saw the first 1, 2, 3, I don't know how many other parts of this that are before this, I want to know your favorite bean. This channel is going to have a Tom's Mechanical Videography sponsored bean at some point. Doesn't have to have bean in the name. Can have pea in the name. It just has to be a legume. It has to be in family Fabaceae. Drop it down in there. Tell me your favorite bean. And if you want to see the rest of the series, subscribe, smash the gray button down there. Till next time, Tom out.